But, the stress of the playoff and, who's going to get in, is a one-loss team better than this two-loss team? And, our group chat was very lively about TCU getting in
Oh yes,
over, the
stupid, so
likes
stupid.
of Alabama. And it's like, TCU should be in. TCU should be in. And here's my thing. This is be kind of the hill I'm going to die on. And, Jay, I mean no disrespect to Ohio State, but like I don't feel like a team should be penalized for playing an extra game in a like the conference weekend, and a team that is sitting at home benefiting from it. You know what I mean? Like I get with how bad of a fashion USC lost, and the tackling was a joke. I understand why Ohio State got moved into number 4. I completely understand that. But the mental gymnastics people were doing to justify a 2-loss Alabama team over TCU was the most mind-boggling experience I had all weekend. And it got to the point where, myself, my wife, my stepson, we're going down to New York City, and we're on, the Metro North going to Grand Central, and it's around 12 noon. I'm live streaming the college selection thing to see where TCU is, because I was losing my mind the night before, where you have Nick Saban, pretty much sucking the ass out of the entire media, conundrum, trying to campaign like he's running for office as to why Alabama needs to be in the playoff as a 2-loss team. And he was citing things like the point spread and being a favorite in all of his games. And it's like, Nick, you would crucify anybody in a presser that brought up the point spread or how much of a favorite you were in a college game. You just absolutely eviscerate these people in a press conference, and now you're citing that as a reason why, as to why you should be in as a 2-loss team. Which, by the way, Jay, all those times that they were favorites, they did not cover against Texas. They barely beat Texas by the skin of their teeth, and it took Quinn Ewers to be knocked out of that game in order for them to win. They lost to Tennessee, and then they lost to LSU, which that makes things even worse, because those two teams, they got blown out by Georgia and South Carolina. So like all of those things combined, like it was just so bad and so mind-boggling, the arguments that this man was making with that shitty ass red blazer he had on. When I found out that he did not make the the college football playoff, my wife and my stepson could have thrown me off of one Vanderbilt place, and I would have died a happy man not knowing that guy didn't get in the playoff.
It's so funny, Puma, that we're having this conversation now, because a lot of this conversation comes down to, and the playoff committee does this on purpose because they want to obviously generate a reaction from me and you and generate conversation for the sport. But there's a difference between the best resume and the better team. And you cannot tell me that Alabama losing on the last play to both Tennessee and the last place to LSU doesn't condone that they're a better team than a very above average TCU team out of a very average Big 12. Like the competition you play in the Big 10 and the SEC, the Power 2 conferences, is miles ahead of what Pac-12, Big 12, all that is. And while I'm a big fan of Max Duggan and the kid has a great story and I'm glad he got in, I think the committee got it wrong. Alabama would, let me ask you this, Alabama TCU plays, what is it, 24-point win? 21-point win? Those kids from Alabama would steamroll TCU. They would use TCU as tackling dummies for 3 whole quarters. And then the fourth quarter, they'll just give up and just like be on the sideline. You feel me? Like that's what the difference is in disparity for talent. Same thing might happen with Michigan. I think Michigan's going to actually win by 14 points fairly easily, I would say easy win over TCU. So, it all really comes down to how you view college football, whether you view it as the best resume or the better team.
I'm going with the best resume because, and if that's the case, I mean, honestly, Jay, like they lost by the one play against some of these teams, but like some of these teams that like they've blown out. Like I mean, they lost to LSU, but then LSU gets demoed by Georgia,
that was bad for
and then Tennessee Tennessee ekes out a win, but then Tennessee gets absolutely destroyed by Spencer Rattler, who I honestly forgot he was playing this season with South Carolina. I mean, that makes those moments worse. Like I don't think that enhances their resume here. I think it's about the resume. This TCU team has been in it every game. I mean, they have fought tooth and nail throughout every game this season, and I think them losing in overtime by one score, or by a field goal, which honestly I think that Max Duggan touchdown was a touchdown by the letter of the law. That's a touchdown, but that's a debate for another day. But I think like them going into overtime losing by a field goal is better enhance their resume more than the Alabama name and the how good of the team is, and at this point, like I just don't see any logical reason as to why they would be in there. And I think honestly, this is why you're going to have expansion within the next year or two. You're going to have 12 teams because you don't have to deal with this. You don't have to deal with this nonsense. But I think Nick Saban was campaigning as hard as he did because he never won a championship with Bryce Young. This was their championship window because they're not going to get a lot of people back from the draft. And, I mean, they're losing more players in the transfer portal right now than they are gaining right now. So, yeah, Nick Saban knew the writing was on the wall. Like, if they didn't get in the playoff, the jig is up. And there's been a lot of things about maybe Nick Saban's retiring at the end of the year. I don't know, man. With how hard he was campaigning with that shitty-ass red blazer and that shit-eating grin, like I said at the top, sucking the ass out of the media, yeah, I think there might be some credence to that. He knew the writing, if they didn't get in, it's over.
You really don't like Nick Saban, huh?
It's all, Jay, it's all that, it's not, what chapped me so bad was the amount of campaigning he was doing, considering his relationship he has with the media. And I remember at one point this season, I think it was the CBS game. I think it was the SEC game of the week. It might have even been when was it? When did Bryce Young get hurt with the shoulder? Is that against A&M?
I believe so.
Or Arkansas? Yes. No, Arkansas.
So, yeah, Arkansas. You're right, Arkansas. Yep.
Yeah, he got hurt going into halftime, and the field reporter, I forgot her name, she was just doing her job, just asking for like an update on Bryce Young, and he just like went off the reservation and just started like snapping and like snapping into a Slim Jim, and the only thing I can compare it to is like Bill Belichick, we're on to Cincinnati. Can you imagine him like having to just suck the ass out of the media that he just does not want to give anything to try to justify getting into a playoff? Like, it's just the two-facedness of this dude to try to get to a means to an end. It's like, no, I have become a TCU fan out of spite. I might take the 9.5 points against Michigan here.
Oh,
I don't care. No, I might do it because the TCU team is hung tight in every single game they've played this year. Max Duggan's got some moxie to him, and I think TCU is going to have a little bit of an edge here.